Welcome back to World Information HD, where history, rarity, and hidden treasures collide to uncover some of the most fascinating coins ever minted in the United States. Today's journey takes us deep into the mid-20th century, into the heart of American numismatic history, as we explore the story of the 1955 mint mark Lincoln 1-cent wheat penny. This is not just an ordinary coin. The 1955 wheat penny represents a chapter in American coinage that blends artistry, history, accidents of minting, and the obsession of collectors who have spent decades chasing after one of the most talked about pennies in U.S. history. So, get ready to learn everything you need to know about this iconic coin: the design, the minting process, the historical background, the varieties, and of course, the coin's present-day market value. Stick with us until the end, because the final number might surprise you. Let's begin our journey. The Lincoln cent was first introduced in 1909, marking the centennial birth anniversary of President Abraham Lincoln. Designed by Victor David Brenner, the coin was revolutionary because it was the very first circulating U.S. coin to feature the image of an actual person, rather than a symbolic figure like Liberty. This decision brought controversy at the time, but history has proven it was a turning point in U.S. coinage design. From 1909 through 1958, the reverse of the Lincoln cent carried the simple but powerful wheat ears design, two stalks of wheat curving along the sides with the words, 1 cent, boldly at the center. It was a nod to America's agricultural strength, and over the decades, it became one of the most recognized coin designs in U.S. history. Fast forward to 1955. America was deep in the post-war boom. President Dwight D. Eisenhower was in office, rock and roll was emerging, and the country was on the cusp of cultural change. Against this backdrop, the Philadelphia and Denver mints were busy producing millions of Lincoln wheat pennies for circulation. What makes the 1955 issue so fascinating is not just its sheer production numbers, but also the errors, varieties, and mint marks that appeared that year. While most people immediately think of the famous 1955 double-die penny, there are also key mint mark coins, including the Denver minted versions, that add to the intrigue of this year's production. Let's pause and talk about mint marks for a moment. On Lincoln wheat pennies, the mint mark can be found just below the date, on the front of the coin. In 1955, there were two main mints producing cents: Philadelphia, which carried no mint mark, and Denver, which carried the letter D. Collectors pay close attention to these marks because they not only tell the story of where the coin was made, but also often influence its rarity and value. The Denver Mint produced over 563 million pennies in 1955, a staggering number. However, not all coins were struck equally. Some came out with imperfections, weak strikes, or slight differences in the mint mark itself. Over time, these little variations created a playground for collectors, who began identifying repunched mint marks, die cracks, and other fascinating anomalies. But beyond minting quirks, the 1955 Lincoln wheat penny carries a legacy of being one of the most discussed small-denomination coins ever. Why? Because it became the centerpiece of one of the greatest coin stories ever told, the sudden emergence of a famous era variety. We cannot talk about the 1955 penny without mentioning the double-die obverse variety. This coin became legendary because of how visibly doubled the date and inscriptions were. Instead of requiring a magnifying glass, collectors could see the error with the naked eye. It was bold, striking, and unforgettable. Although this double-die variety came from Philadelphia and not Denver, it elevated the entire year's pennies into a league of their own. Collectors started hunting for any 1955 penny they could find. Stories spread about people pulling them out of pocket change. Newspapers reported on the phenomenon. Ordinary Americans began paying attention to their pennies for the first time in decades. In many ways, the 1955 double die helped spark the modern coin collecting boom, making the wheat penny an icon not just of money but of Americana. But let's bring the spotlight back to the 1955 Denver minted wheat penny, the one with the mint mark. While it doesn't share the double die fame, it has its own importance. Coins from the Denver Mint of this year can display fascinating repunched mint marks, where the D was struck into the die more than once, leaving traces of overlapping impressions. These varieties are treasured by specialists and are cataloged carefully in coin guides. The story gets even better when we consider condition and grading. Like all collectible coins, the value of a 1955 mint mark wheat penny depends heavily on its state of preservation. A coin that circulated for decades, showing heavy wear, might only be worth a few cents to a casual collector. But an uncirculated piece, with its original mint luster intact, can fetch serious money. Coins graded at higher levels, such as mint state 65 or above, are especially desirable. Let's talk about what collectors look for. First is the strike quality, how sharp and clear the details of Lincoln's portrait and the wheat stalks appear. Then there's the luster, the natural sheen of the coin as it reflects light. Eye appeal is also critical. Does the coin look attractive overall, free from distracting marks, discoloration, or spotting? Each of these factors contributes to the final grade, which in turn drives the coin's market value. Another fascinating angle is the historical context of wheat pennies by the mid-1950s. The design itself was nearing the end of its run. Just 3 years later, in 1959, the wheat ears reverse was replaced with the Lincoln Memorial design to celebrate Lincoln's 150th birthday. That change ended an era, making coins from the 1950s the last chapter of the classic wheat cent series. For many collectors, 1955 is a symbolic year. It sits right on the edge of that transition, representing both tradition and change. Beyond the physical coin, there's something more intangible at play: nostalgia. Many people alive today remember handling wheat pennies in their youth. They recall the joy of finding one in change, the feeling of holding something that seemed both ordinary and special. The 1955 issue, especially with its connection to one of the most famous eras in U.S. history, carries that emotional weight. Owning one is not just about having a piece of copper, it's about holding a piece of mid-century America in your hands. Now let's dive deeper into the collecting world. Price guides, auction records, and numismatic communities all keep close watch on the market for 1955 wheat pennies. While the majority of coins in low grades remain affordable, high-grade mint mark specimens command respect. Auction houses have seen remarkable results for these coins when they are preserved in pristine condition. It's also important to note that counterfeiters have tried to take advantage of the 1955 penny's fame, especially the double-die variety. Collectors must be cautious, learning how to spot authentic pieces versus altered ones. This has added another layer of intrigue to the story, as the coin community continues to educate and protect itself against fraudulent versions. At this point, we've covered the design, the history, the minting details, the varieties, the grading process, and the collecting culture around the 1955 mint mark Lincoln wheat penny. But the question remains, what is it actually worth today? For most viewers, this is the climax of the story, the answer that ties everything together. And while it's true that value can fluctuate depending on market conditions, rarity, and grade, there is a clear number that demonstrates just how prized this coin can be. A genuine, high-quality example of the 1955 mint mark Lincoln 1-cent wheat penny has reached a value of $31,872. That's right. From a simple copper cent that once jingled in the pockets of Americans in the 1950s, to a coin commanding tens of thousands of dollars in the modern collecting world, the journey of the 1955 wheat penny is nothing short of extraordinary. So, the next time you come across an old wheat penny in your collection, or even in your change, take a moment to look closely. Because history has proven that sometimes, the smallest coins tell the biggest stories. Thank you for watching World Information HD. And be sure to subscribe for more deep dives into the fascinating world of rare coins, history, and treasures you might not even know exist.